what did you notice more? Because this is, it seems to me, the point you cannot pass. The General Secretary, or the Secretary, I've got a mind blip now, haven't I? It's the Secretary General, he's not Mick Lynch. The Secretary General of the United... I'm going to turn all, Gilbert and Sullivan now. I'm going to start singing it. He was the very model of a modern Secretary General. No, stop it now. All right, the Secretary General of the United Nations is quite a big cheese. He's quite a big deal. He's quite a big player on the world stage. Humanity, he said, has a choice. Cooperate or perish. I mean, the warning is stark. You can probably still find a Daily Telegraph columnist or a presenter on one of those weird new television stations claiming that the scientists don't know what they're talking about and nobody needs to panic. But everybody, with even a scintilla of comprehension on these issues, is now almost unanimous in this warning, this scale of warning. Humanity has a choice. Cooperate or perish. And yet I don't think you'd have noticed that speech. This is the first you've heard of it. And you're not stupid. You know, by dint of the fact that you tune into this particular radio station, you demonstrate an interest in current affairs, albeit an interest in current affairs, or indeed current affairs that are slightly distorted by the lenses of your favourite presenters. We choose the topics we're going to talk about. We don't choose what goes into the news bulletin, but you will know a little bit more about the things that Nick and me and Sheila and everybody else find interesting by dint of the fact that that's how, well, certainly that's how I work. I can't speak for anybody else. I talk every day about the stuff I find most interesting. And there it is. You will not be aware, or you will be nowhere near as aware of the United Nations Secretary General's apocalyptic warning yesterday as you are about the people who have climbed up onto a motorway gantry and brought commuters' traffic to a standstill. So if the simple task is to draw attention to the issue, then stopping traffic on the M25 is a more effective intervention than being the Secretary General of the United Nations and delivering an apocalyptic speech in front of pretty much every world leader on the planet. Just think about that for a minute. That's the problem. That's the craziness of this issue, right? Every world leader on the planet, give or take, is in Sharm el-Sheikh today. Even Rishi Sunak went eventually after insisting that he wouldn't and sending Therese Coffey around the studios to claim that it was just a gathering of people and didn't really mean anything. Even Boris Johnson turned up there to save his career. I'm sorry, to save the planet. All the world leaders of note are there. Sunak and Macron, new best friends. I don't know if you've seen the photographs. It looks like a reunion of a 25-year-old boy band. It's quite sweet, actually. Both very well groomed, aren't they? All the world leaders worth a mention. Pretty much, you know, or certainly all the leaders of the free world gathering in one spot to discuss climate crisis, to come up with solutions to our fossil fuel addiction, to look at crises that are posing an existential threat to our species. The planet will be fine. Planet will recover. It's the species that we're talking about. And it gets less attention. It secures less attention than people climbing on a motorway gantry and bringing commuter traffic to a standstill. Now, there it is. There is the problem. I haven't asked you a question yet. I don't know if I can say, how would you solve that problem? Should we do that? I mean, it's only Tuesday. You should still have a little bit of bounce, a little bit of petrol in your tank. How do you solve that problem? What can these people do? Because here's the thing, right? What would you do to save your child's life? To understand these protesters, and I'm not on the same page yet. I'm really not. And I know that I should be. And I have two ways of going. I'm not going to labour this point because I got told off about it yesterday by a very, very good caller over in Thursford in Norfolk. But I will just remind you that I understand the mental impulse at this fork in the road. You know that they're right. You know that what they're doing is necessary and urgent. And unless you've got a better idea, you can't really disapprove of them in good conscience, which means you choose bad conscience. You start slagging them off. You start calling them unhelpful. But what they've done has drawn more attention to this issue than a speech in front of every leader in the free world, delivered by the Secretary General of the United Nations, warning in apocalyptic terms of what is on the road ahead of us unless we take drastic action soon. So how do you solve that problem? How do you solve the very simple problem that these people protesting on the M25 today have managed to garner more attention, more headlines and more coverage than the Secretary General of the United Nations delivering a speech in the company of every leader in the free world warning that if we don't act soon, we will be, in fact, no, we are already on a highway to hell. Warning that humanity has a choice, cooperate or perish. What are those kids up that gantry saying? Sorry, they're not kids. What are those people up that gantry saying? We will perish if we do not do something now. But we ignore the Secretary General of the United Nations, and we are encouraged by all the people who told you Brexit would be brilliant. Boris Johnson was a stand-up guy. Refugees are the real problem facing his country. 12 years of Tory rule has absolutely nothing to do with the state of the NHS or the police or the schools or the borders or whatever it may be. All of those people doffing their caps, tugging their forelocks, shilling furiously for the vested interests of media owners, newspaper owners. They're telling you to hate on these people doing the protests. So what gives? And the crucial point to understand is that they are screaming about our home being on fire. The home we all share is on fire, and they are screaming about it. And some of the most powerful voices in the Western world are screaming back at them to shut up and ignore the flames. What else can they do? 0345 6060 And what can we do about this fundamental problem? The fact that a 24-year-old woman up a gantry on the M25 will attract more attention, more coverage, more, quotes, news, end quotes, than a speech in a room containing the most powerful people on the planet, delivered by the Secretary General of the United Nations, warning in no uncertain terms that unless we change right now, we will perish. How do we do that? And crikey, I've got questions coming out my ears this morning. But at the heart of it is there any other way? Is there any other way? And can I reach you, even if you're stuck there, even if you're furious, even if you've got screaming kids in the back of the car, even if you're going to miss something really important like a funeral or a hospital appointment? Is there any way that these people can impress upon you the urgency of this situation if we're going to ignore the speeches and focus so furiously upon the direct action? Stuart in Tiptree's just texted to say, it's easy, James. Just don't look up. And he's right, isn't he? The problem is, and referring back to that film from last Christmas, the problem is it's not just don't look up. It's the energy and the expense that is then put into telling everybody not to look up. And it's still out there. That's the enemy. That's the counterweight. That's the opponent to these people on the gantries. It's the most powerful institutions in this country have spent 20, 30 years telling you that there's nothing to worry about. I saw someone on Question Time. They used to work here, actually saying there's nothing to worry about. There's no such thing. This was last week or the week before. And you sort of, you can't quite believe your ears, even though you're aware of how boneheaded some of these so-called commentators and professional contributors to public discourse are. The idea that we would still have people now on the BBC's flagship discussion programme saying, oh, no such thing, don't worry about it. It's incredible. And yet, when these people climb these gantries, stop these commuters, then we talk about it. So what else could they do? And how do we fix the problem of them getting all the attention while the United Nations Secretary General merits barely a whisper?